team, what's up? So you guys are here, and you're probably, hopefully, a little bit excited because I promised to make everyone in this room a better lover by the end of my talk, based off my session description, which I think I might still be able to do. So we'll get to that. Hold on, I think I went too far. There we go. This is Haley. She works at Digiday. She's the one who did all the programming and content for this. Yay, Haley. Well, Haley emailed me on Monday and said, Vishal, just a reminder, your slides are due today. And I wrote back to Haley and I said, hi, Haley. We've never met before, but I don't want to start our relationship based off lies. And there's a good chance that I won't be doing my slides until I'm on the plane to Vail. I had a crazy week, and so I just kind of knew how it was going to turn out. So this is me on the plane. This is not at all how I flew here, but it was one of the first images that came up on Google Images. And I really thought about the audience, and this is a pretty different speaking engagement that I'm used to doing, and I'm super humbled by the fact that I get to, somebody thinks it's wise of me to come up here and espouse advice onto you guys who are my peers, but I'm going to give it a shot. And so I'm really excited to be talking to you. And I will talk about the languages of love. I will talk about the role of that in agency and client relationships, in the relationships that you have within your agencies. But I also want to hit a lot of different stuff. So this is going to be like my Pulp Fiction version of this presentation. It's going to be a non-linear story. But I think we're all going to get to the place I want to take us by the end of it. So I want to talk for a second about what's happening in the industry. I work at a creative agency, and creative is being disintermediated today every day. Everybody's a content creator. You know, before we were just competing against the big ad agencies to do the big creative idea, to do the digital social execution of whatever that big idea was. And slowly we started doing the video content. We started, you know, birthing the advertising spots out of digital. And we were hyped, and they hated us. And now what we see happening is we're competing against Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest. They all have creative studios. They're all creating content. We're competing against the multi-channel networks, the MCNs, the Maker Studios, Collective Digital Studios. These are companies that have networks of 50,000 creators who are doing amazing stuff, who are really smart. And then we're competing against publishers who've always been in the content business, and they're really good at it too. And so I think overall, you know, we need to stop being so precious to the creative. There's still a role for the agency to create, to police the creative, to make sure that it's on brand and all that. But I also see a future in which we need to work a lot more closely with more partners, more closely with the client. And I think all of that, we're all servicing the same goal, right? We all want to make ourselves famous, our clients famous, our brands famous, and we want to produce great work. We want people to go buy more Bud Light, and we want to do something funny that impacts culture, that gets written up in the news. And so we all have the same goal, but we don't always work together towards that. And I think part of the problem is, and I thought I'd throw in like a little meme action in there, but like our relationships with our clients are broken. I look at our accounts, and even our top client services people. They're amazing, they're diligent, they're meticulous, they work hard. They're very efficient, they get shit done, they get it done on budget. But there's something missing in a lot of the relationships that I've seen. In my role, I'm responsible for growing the business, and I focus mostly on net new business, but I also focus on kind of general growth strategy, which includes our existing clients. And sometimes I get to have really interesting conversations with them, not about the day-to-day, but about their business 2, 3, 5 years in the future. And if that relationship is not based off of honesty, off of transparency, you're not getting great feedback. You're not getting honest feedback. They put you on silent, they put you on mute on the conference line, they talk amongst themselves, and everyone's very sensitive, and they don't want to say anything harsh or hurt anyone's feelings, and you get bullshit feedback, and it produces bullshit work. And so I think that relationship is super important, and communication is kind of the core of that. So now we're going to talk about love. Dr. Gary Chapman, relationship psychologist, wrote a book called The 5 Languages of Love. And he studied relationships, he counseled couples, and he, in particular, he studied communication. And something that he found was that of the couples he studied, people, where communication broke down was when people gave and received love differently. And so what he did was he started bucketing these kind of patterns that he was seeing, and he came up. How many people, by the way, know what the 5 languages of love are? We got some hands. Oh, nice. Okay, cool. So here they are. They're words of affirmation, words of encouragement, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, physical touch. And a lot of you are probably thinking now, oh, what's mine, right? You probably have a dominant one. And usually the dominant one that you use to show your affection, to show your love, is often what you expect in return and how you want to receive it as well. And I recently discovered the Bitmoji app. I'm a little bit late to the game. How many people actually use Bitmojis? Yeah, I've never felt so expressive and in control of my emotions ever before. So anyway, I thought it would be helpful to illustrate what some of these mean and how they actually come to life. So for words of affirmation, it's just recognizing somebody and saying, hey, great job, amazing brief, like can't wait to work on the creative, awesome, you got my vote. Acts of services, I know you have a long day, let me make you pancakes, you stay in bed a little bit longer. Gifts, here's a puppy, I love you, you're welcome. Quality time, date night, just the context doesn't matter, it's just about being together, spending time, looking at that person, being present with them. And finally, my personal favorite, physical touch, which is self-explanatory. You should be a little bit careful when you start applying this to your client and agency relationships, but I'm happy to give you some pointers. And I think something it's really funny happens, right, in our world. We find ourselves in rooms with VPs, with CMOs. My parents have no idea what I do. And I have a feeling somebody's going to tweet this photo, and my mom's on Twitter now, which is interesting. And she's just going to see my name in this image and be like, what did you become? But we find ourselves in rooms with important people. But I think what we forget is we forget to treat them like humans. Just because somebody gets promoted or a fancy title doesn't mean that they're not motivated by the same things that we are, which is relationships, experiences, et cetera. And like sex, drugs, and rock and roll don't become any less cool because we just got promoted. In fact, you probably want to have like more and extreme versions of all of those things because you feel pretty good. And so, I think it goes back to one simple idea. And it's the biggest area of improvement that I think I see in the client services world, is that we forget to adapt. We become really good and we become really process-oriented and driven by getting things done and goal-oriented. We think about the outcome, and we forget to think about and that's why I love the talks today, because I feel like I'm repeating some of it or maybe just saying it in a different way. But it's like, think about who you're talking to. They're a brother, father, sister, friend, lover, whatever, to somebody else the same way you hold relationships close in your life. And I think once we start recognizing who those people are for who they are, what motivates them, what excites them, what they're passionate about. One of the questions I asked, there was a moment of silence kind of this morning when we were having breakfast, and I said, what if I fired you from your job? What if I told you can never work in this industry ever again, and I just give you a whole ton of money so you're cool on that front? What would you do? And that's when we start getting to really interesting places, because somebody's going to help somebody plan their next wedding, and somebody's going to become a florist, and somebody's going to go travel the world, and somebody's going to start a soccer camp. And that's when you start getting to interesting stuff, and that's how you start relating to people. So do that. So the girl with her tongue out is a girl I met when I was 25. When I was 25, I left my career in investment banking. I started managing a bunch of DJs based out of New York City, and life became really interesting. After not going out for like my first 3-4 years in New York City and working 100+ hours a week, and then having no job, still getting paid, and managing people in nightlife, it was a really interesting transition for me. Allie Rose is probably the most influential person in my business career, more so than any mentor, any news article, any book I've ever read about leadership and mentorship and anything like that. Allie's a fascinating human being. So I met her at this crazy point in my life, and she was like in that scene. She was out every night. She's like a vision in the club. She always kind of managed to find like the most elevated surface in the club and be dancing on it. And super talented fashion designer, really successful. She was like 19 at the time, just producing things like this. And was just like this amazing wizard of a human, well-read, well-cultured, and we became really close friends. And then sometime over the next couple of years, Allie became really sick. And she found herself in the hospital 3-4 times a week, hooked up to IVs, sitting next to cancer patients, confused why she was there, always tired but could never sleep, and life was just hard. And it's hard for, like turning this back on myself, it's very hard for somebody to break my spirit. And the only time that really happens is if, I'm sick or I'm ill or I have to go to the doctor and something like that. And so if you looked at all of her social posts and all the stuff that she's putting out in the world, super positive, super encouraging, like finding like all the amazing shit in our life and noticing the small stuff. And I was just like, Allie, how do you do this? Like, how do you act this way when you're going through all of this? And she goes, every day I wake up and I realize that I have a choice. I could be sad, or I can appreciate the shit that I have. I could appreciate the fact that I'm pursuing my passion. I could appreciate the fact that I'm living in the city that I want to live in, that I have people who support me, and that like I'm not dead. And that was amazing. And she said, every day I wake up and I remind myself to have a heart full of joy and a mind at ease. Because nothing we do in this world is so important that we should become angry or resentful or lash out at people. And like, look, shit gets tough. I get it, right? It's like not always like stress-free and stuff. But this was amazing. And this kind of became my mantra. And I heard that. And it was just really powerful for me. And I could see how it affected her. And so every morning when I got up, the first thing I tried to do was say, heart full of joy and mind at ease. But it's really hard to like train your mind to do that. But now pretty much every day between the time I get up and the time I walk into my office, heart full of joy, mind at ease, deep breath, smile. It changed my life. I haven't felt stressed the way I used to feel it in years since I've been saying this. And so, everyone has to find their way. And I think this clarity of mind creates greater, I skipped ahead, but you guys get it. But this clarity of mind, I think it raises awareness, raises our intuition, raises our relationship to the folks that we're interacting with. I think there's nothing more important than that. So let's breathe before we transition. I'm going to do this next section really quickly. How many people in this room meditate? Awesome. We did an experiment at an agency in New York. For 60 days, we studied people who practice meditation every day, and we found these results. I'm going to go through these quickly because I'm running out of time. And science shows that regular meditation heightens the good shit and reduces the bad shit. They're all on the slide. I'm happy to talk to you about them later. It also cuts cost. So as you go back to your places of work and say, hey, maybe we should start a meditation program, a wellness program, there's a lot of data that says it reduces not only the cost per healthcare per employee, but also increases their value and productivity. And it's like the ultimate brain hack. It's so simple. All like somebody's asking you to do is like sit down and chill out. And it can change your life. So, I encourage you guys to do that. And just to recap some of the stuff I said, and I threw some stuff in here that I heard over the last 2 days that I thought was important enough to kind of repeat for you guys. But like, just be yourselves and realize that the people who you're working with are also human and normal, and they have all the, they're excited by a lot of the same things you are, and just figure out what those are. Recognize how people communicate. Recognize that your language may be different than theirs, and just try to be in tune with that. Be transparent, be honest. It's like, look at where it took Tyler. It's like, any time I've been honest, and no matter, you have to be a little bit vulnerable to do that, but any time I've maybe had a moment of embarrassment or a moment of trepidation about what I should do, any time I've been honest, I've gotten so much more back than what I gave in that moment. It was an amazing experience. And yesterday, somebody said, like, know the business of advertising, know how your business works. So my background was finance, and so I was used to reading like all of these financial documents. But like, we sometimes get stuck working in silos, focusing on marketing and brand goals and communication goals and reach, media goals, and all this shit. It's like, know your client's business. It's so simple. This information is free. It's public. Go to their website, read their 12-slide investor presentation, read their 10K. It'll give you a whole new context of how to think about your client's business, and you'll see your conversation shift. You'll see how people perceive you shift. It'll make a huge difference. And just try to live with a clear mind. Life's easy. I'm Vishal. I work at MRY. We're a creative agency. We work with these clients, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
There's exactly 30 seconds on the clock. We have a question for Vishal. We have time for one. he's also not going anywhere, so he'll be around. That was fantastic. Maybe next time we do a meditation seminar.
I'll do it later. Let's do it.
That would be pretty
Cheers.
cool.
Thanks, guys.